NAVI is a name synonymous with Counter-Strike. The Ukrainian team did incredible things during CSGO, but at the start of CS2, they really shook things up. For starters, they had signed an international roster, something that shocked and surprised a lot of fans. Also, at the start of CS2, one of the greatest of all times, Simple, a name also synonymous with NAVI, was benched, and in his place stepped a young upstart Wonderful. What big shoes he had to fill. There was criticism around AleksiB, the IGL. JL, very big mouth on social, possibly not necessarily performing in the server, and questions around whether Bit would be able to cope with calling in English now, or if Ima could ever continue the success that he saw in Gamer Legion. There was so many question marks, so many debates about the level of these players as well. And yet, as they moved into the CS2 Major, they were not the favorites. They were not expected to really do much, and they found themselves in the final and ultimately lifted that trophy and claimed themselves major winners. It was an incredible moment. So I caught up with NAVI's performance coach, Urszula, a good friend of mine, someone I've spoken to on my podcast, Tech Call Talks, before, to find out exactly what went into prepping this team and the mental game that they needed to play in order to lift the trophy. Before we start, though, I do want to ask, if you enjoy this, if you find this interesting, make sure you hit the subscribe button, the follow button, and please leave a comment. We would love to hear from you. You are part of NAVI Counter-Strike, first ever CS2 Major winners. I need to know what you were feeling in that moment when you realized that your team was going to win. I mean, what was going... I can imagine the screaming backstage. I've heard you before, but what was going through your head?
You know, like that specific moment was the moment when they run into the stage and all of that. I was like a little bit sitting at the backstage and just looking at all of that. And I'm like, I'm proud, you know. There are not many women that also have a pleasure of being there and also winning the major. I think I'm the second performance coach in CS history that is winning it. First was Mia with Astralis, and then I'm the second one. And the first one for the CS2. So kind of, you know, growing a little bit. But I feel like the moment itself was amazing. And from the backstage, I can tell you that before we hit playoffs, I was texting with our analyst, with Flashy. We were just like, you know, doing some prep, talking about the game, watching how they play. And I was like, yo, Flashy, I was like, you know, we can win it. And he was like, yeah, I feel like we can win it. And we kind of didn't want to say it to the boys, but looking how the boys clicking, how they're reacting to fantastic job Blade put in them, like teaching them all the, you know, understanding of the game and reasoning also in CS, and also looking at Flashy's work and how they respond to my work, I was like, damn, we're winning it, you know, and we did.
You did. And it's an interesting one for me because coming into this, obviously all the conversation was around Spirit. And I feel like this is a team that hasn't got a lot of love from the fans. They weren't really pipped to win the major, but I know you've been putting the work behind the scenes. How is it dealing with that coming in where you know all the conversation is about other teams? Does that make it a little bit easier? Also, obviously in the final, everyone from the analysts to the fans online were talking about FaZe. Does that make it easier for the boys? Does it like make the pressure less, or did you find it was a bit more difficult for them because it felt like maybe the majority wasn't behind them?
I mean, we had Spirit on our way. We lost to them. And going back to IM Katowice, we were the only team that took a map from Spirit. Now it was the same in Major. So looking at all the teams that are playing with Spirit and looking at us, I feel like we were the most competitive. So from the Spirit aspect, we know we could do it. And we were definitely expecting to have Spirit, at the final. I mean, for me, it was either Vitality or Spirit. I was super happy to see Neo and FaZe going into the finals. Based on, like, what we've been tracking in and what we've been playing, we knew we had a chance, but we also knew that FaZe and Kerrigan, they're the different beast, you know, when they're on stage. They're fantastic. They're cheering with the crowd, and crowd can be your carry with your emotions and with your energy. We saw it during our game, and crowd can be your enemy at the same time if you put up too much of an ego, and then all of a sudden it falls down. So I feel like in here we could not tell, like, you know, who would be our opponent. But once we hit the stage, once we knew its phase, after the first map, we knew it's within our reach. But sometimes, you know, you see it from the crowd that the crowd has a majority for a specific team. And here in the arena, it was equally split, you know. It was no such thing that you would tell, like, hey, you know, FaZe is having the whole arena, we have to fight against the crowd. We had a fantastic crowd. We had a lot of fans. We have a lot of people cheering for this roster, especially that it's not a roster where you have, like, you know, stars that are very experienced. It's not a roster that you have many decorated players, if I can call it like that. So at some point we wanted to surprise. It's easier to go that path that people don't believe, and, you know, you don't face that much of a criticism. But on the other hand, it's far more hard work to make sure that you don't get into the point where, you know, you reach a goal, because our goal was to reach playoffs, to play in the arena, basically. So we wanted to make sure that after we play in the arena, the boys don't drop because, oh, you know, we reached the goal, it's good, you know, we're satisfied. We want them to be hungry. We wanted to show them that we want you to do more, you're capable of doing more. And keeping that and pushing them to get that hunger, that was something that was, I don't think if difficult was a good word, but that was something that they had to realize themselves that they can do more. So for us, underdog, it doesn't matter much, but it's always easier to kind of have a feeling that people may not be respecting what you know, what you can do, basically.
Off the back of that, with people not really respecting what you can do, you have players in this team that they've had to deal with a lot of online criticism. AleksiB is one of them. And then you, on the other side, not only do you have these players dealing with that criticism, you also have players like JL who get criticized and aren't afraid to speak up for themselves and get themselves into situations where maybe there's an argument online. As a performance coach, is it something that you need to work on with these players of learning how to block out that noise, or are they pretty good at realizing that they can't take that too seriously?
I mean, so for me, the first time I saw JL going into like online battles, that was the first thing. I was like, we need to talk. but no, he just told me, like, for him it's more like a baiting type of behavior, and like, I wanted to be sure that those type of things, they do not impact his game and he's kind of prove them wrong approach. Because if you get into that I need to prove them wrong, you put on yourself a lot of pressure, and that pressure could be destructive, especially in the moments where you miss a couple of shots. You start thinking, oh my god, like, what now? You know, I was just cocky, I was just showing my ego, and now it's all falling apart. But with JL, it's a different story. JL is a type of a beast that is being pushed by the people around him. And right now, this team is in the environment. Like, this team is an environment. We're all different. Like, you know, Igor Wonderful is different, Bit is different, Aleksi is different, Ima is different, and he is different. But what we learned is, like, accepting our personalities and our flaws and our sometimes be speaking too much if it comes to, like, online things. And what at some point it might have been the thought, like, why would you do that to bait unnecessarily? Now we kind of just put it in a joke, and we know that it's not impacting him. JL has that great ability to silence a lot of noise that is around him, and for him, the less people believe in him, the more hardworking he becomes. So it's kind of like opposite effect, which is something that we do, but I also kind of need to manage that. If it comes to AleksiB, he is one of the best IGLs I've been working with. Looking into the amount of work, looking into his commitment, but also looking into the way he is capable of opening up with some of the some of the things that are at the back of his head, some of his thoughts. He's never afraid to tell what's deep inside, like if it comes to team, if it comes to some of his opinions or something. So I feel like the balance I see with him and his hunger and his hard work and the criticism, he's handling it fantastic, because there are not many people that are not afraid to, let's say, go into the stage knowing that people don't believe in you. People quite often can shut down, they go into the shell, whereas he is more like, the team is driving me, the team believes in me, the coach believes in me. And we kind of worked on that atmosphere that this is the core, you know, the team, the coach, the staff, like we are the core. Whatever is outside, it doesn't matter much. And not to lie, there were many situations where it didn't even need to check social media. There are games that, you know, you could tell, like, not after every game our players are just texting, oh, we won, we all go to the next one. Like, we kind of silenced that over the tournament. We just had a pure focus where job is not done. And I think that was the main topic over the whole major, like, job is not done. So we won the game, we met in the prac room, we were just talking, and then, okay, guys, job is not done. Let's go on the next one. Let's go on the next one. So he is the one that would not sit still until job is not done.
I love that. And now there was the addition, and this is, for me, this is quite interesting, because I imagine this is quite difficult, where you have one of the GOATs of Counter-Strike in your lineup. He's then benched, and you bring in someone to quote unquote replace him. And that someone is very young, very inexperienced at this level, never played in this situation, now in a major final. And obviously it's going to happen. The constant comparison between Wonderful and Simple. Wonderful himself speaks about how he looks up to Simple, and now he's in these shoes. Such a young player as well. He seemed to handle that pressure. I mean, when I say handle the pressure, it's like he didn't even feel it. He looked quite confident. Is that his personality, where he can just sort of deal with all of that? Or do you think there was a lot riding on him and maybe feeling a little bit, especially considering that GOAT was in the arena at the same time you're
looking at him? I mean, he was high-fiving him before the game, right?
Fantastic.
You know, what we wanted from the first moment Igor joined, we spoke with Blade that we don't want him to fit Sasha's shoes. We want him to be himself. His own personality, we wanted to bring it to the team. The way he behaved. He's a very humble player, and he's a very hardworking player. For him, CS is not just a game, you know. For him, CS is a living, you know. After, like, there were many situations, we just finished the game, it was late in the evening, we had like that 1 hour break, and after that 1 hour break we were meeting in a prac room, and when I was there a couple of minutes earlier, Igor was playing CS. So, you know, it's not that it is for him just like, you know, I'm playing the game, I'm enjoying it, and, you know, things happen like without a specific plan. He's a very hardworking person, and whenever he sees a flaw, whenever he sees, like, I don't know, missing a smoke, or I don't know, just maybe not positioning himself well, he would go into the server and he would change and practice. So I feel like the belief he had, and again, from the whole team, it's not that it's just me and Blade that we were just like, you know, trying to shape him. He had a lot of learning. Imagine, like, you just come into the team that is very well established. There's a set of strategies, there's a set of, you know, ideas, there's a specific game plan, and so on and so forth. And then this young guy is coming, and I had to learn all of that. So, like, not many people talk about it, but imagine, for every player, for every map, there are, I don't know, like, tons of strategies, definitely like 20, 30, even maybe more strategies that the team has that they want to play. Then they pick the cherries on the top. Then there's every map. Then there's also prep towards the team that we need to play. So having that young guy coming into and having to learn all of that, it's actually a big achievement already. And then on the top of that, he actually performed very well, and he also glued pretty well in the team. So it's like getting that cherry in the team, someone that is aligning or matching the atmosphere, and also with the level of how well they work and so on, is like pretty difficult for many organizations. But also being able to shape that personality, not to get ego, not to get over his head, to be productive and all of that. I feel like it needs to just come from both sides. So for me, he is definitely a unique personality. I feel like he should get more attention, especially for everything he's done. But in my eyes, like raw diamond, he's still raw diamond, and he's still young. So looking at what's coming, we want more. I want more.
For sure. I mean, a young raw diamond, and also the first CS2 Major winner. That's the feather that he can put in his cap, which is insane. During Gamers 8 last year, I actually chatted to Blade. It was when this roster first sort of Navi had gone with this international roster, and I think you hadn't joined the team yet. I was chatting to him, and he mentioned, or you might have just joined, but I said to him at the time, what do you have to say to the fans? Because you know, you're not really performing to the level they'd want. And he said, you need to give us some time. And he made a timeline where he said, towards the end of the year, have a look. Towards the start of next year, I have a goal, and we'll peak during the major. Exactly what happened. Blade is like this big brain coach, and I think really needs the respect for how he's able to manage these personalities. How closely do you get to work with him in terms of what you're doing from a performance point of view and what he's doing from a coaching point of view to ensure you lift a major trophy?
Yeah, so from the very beginning, we kind of work pretty close. I mean, he's doing his job, but he's also giving me a lot of freedom to do my job. And not to lie, with any team I've been working with, the performance coaches, we always have to battle for the time. You can imagine for the staff, it's more important to teach the guys the strategies, to make sure that they do this, and everything about the game. Whereas for me, it's important that I also have their focus on the stuff that can shape them on stage. So once I have that from him, and I think from the beginning I kind of had a trust and reinforcement from him. When we first met in Barcelona and I was doing workshops, what I really liked is that every time he was talking about things, every time we were like summarizing prags and talking about what we want them to play in the tournament, how we want them to focus, he was always like getting back to the things I was teaching them. So I was like, hey, like Ula mentioned, remember about this, remember about that. So I kind of have his support, and I feel like he's not interfering in my job. But at this point, at this point, I see that we kind of found like the balance between how much focus we give them on like the game and how much time I can put myself into the mental stuff. Usually before we start prag, like when we are boot camping or when we are practicing, usually before we start prag, I kind of taught the guys a specific routine that I want them to do. I wanted them to focus on the cross-scroll activities. I wanted them to focus on breathing, visualization, meditation. Like we want to have that balance where they kind of calm down their thoughts and they just don't go and sit and play, but they have that preparation time when their brain is getting the signal work is ahead of you, right? So that's one thing. Another thing is that I'm also trying not to take the time I don't need. So if I feel like, I don't know, we're playing the game, the guys are productive, you know, we huddle before the game, and I see that the vibe is good, the energy is good. I'm not a type of person that I would go and just like, hey, and remember about this, and also, you know, guys, you need to stay together, you need to like, I don't need that because I feel it's there. But I only take the time from him and the boys, which is super critical, when I feel like it's really important, when I feel like the team is lost or the team is kind of forgot about some of the tools they have that I've taught them and they're not using. So I feel like our cooperation is like we work simultaneously, but we are overlapping in many aspects that actually are probably visible for the team, that we look uh, at the same like angle what the team needs. Like even in boot camp, when you boot camp for such a long period of time, my thought, like I woke up in the morning and I was like, okay, I think I need to bring to the team some motivational quotes, maybe Kobe Bryant, maybe someone, and I was trying to figuring out what to do. And then I came downstairs, I say like, hi, Blade, like what's cooking? And it's like, hey, I thought about some motivational quotes for the team. And I'm like, yep. This is what I just thought about. So it kind of shows both of us that we recognize same things to work on. And it's good because it's like in many cases in previous teams, I did not have that much of a freedom, and I did not have players that would be all aligned to do what I wanted to introduce and what I wanted to give them. There would be also people saying like, I don't know if that works. I don't have time for this. I'd prefer to play, Whereas in this team, we do everything together. And when people feel like the team is preparing together, I don't know, doing exercises together, breathing exercises together, juggling together, like they all kind of feel like everyone is trying hard to make this work, and that's the proper bond reinforcement. And if that comes with a coach support, then what else to wish for? It's for me, he's a big brain. Like I absolutely love the way he is looking at the team when he needs to be praising them. He is. When he needs to give them a kick in the ass, he is absolutely mastermind if it comes to being a staff in the team.
I want to paint a picture. It's the first ever CS2 Major, grand finals, FaZe versus NAVI. FaZe is the big favorites. We come into the first map, it's FaZe's map pick, and NAVI decimates them. We move on to NAVI's map pick. The NAVI fans are getting loud, and FaZe destroys NAVI. You've now got to go to the decider. That amazing roller coaster of the hype and then the low. What was the conversation between map 2 and map 3 with the team that allowed them to come in and ultimately clinch it and lift the trophy?
First, what is good to mention that no one was devastated. Nobody after the game, when we went outside, there was no anger, there was no negative emotions. That used to happen in the past, but we kind of worked on it, that there is no frustrations, that we keep on fighting until we can fight. So that was super good from the team, that I saw that everything we did with emotions control, everything we did with silencing the noises in the head, thoughts control, and so on and so forth, that was all there. Now, what was the discussion? I mean, they at the very beginning, they all went into the discussion and planned for the next map. So that was already, funny thing. But once they kind of finished, we all kind of talked about, I think Andre said it at first, do not be afraid to win. Like we kind of talked about what was not maybe missing, but what they forgot to use. And I think on the second map, from my angle, if it comes to mental, if it comes to knowing the boys a little bit, what didn't work in my eyes was the fact that they all wanted to focus on somebody else, not thinking about yourself and how you do things. So if someone is making mistakes, they were already like, oh my God, what if that happens again? And we forgot about focusing. Don't focus on someone else. Once they make a mistake, they know it's a mistake, and you don't need to make it bigger. You just focus on your own game. So one thing is that we put a lot of focus into, remember, you're responsible for your job, for your actions, for your strategy. Make it work, make it perfect, make it be there with you, and trust that the others want the same. So that was the one thing. So that was a reminder. The second reminder we did, if it comes to mental, was that we talked about all the tools they have. Don't forget to breathe. Don't forget to bring each other back. Don't forget to, when somebody needs a support or when you need to celebrate, don't be quiet. Be happy with every play you can make. And then when we huddled right before the game, once we kind of talked everything, I just said, like, guys, play like there is no CS tomorrow, basically. And they all kind of started laughing and smiling, and that kind of took off the attention of, like, hey, we're playing the last map or something. We just want to have fun, and that was the key message. So I feel like the people that know me a little bit better, they know that I'm crying when I know that we can win something. And after the Dallas event with Ents, I started crying before the first map because I knew where in the mental space my team was. So I know everyone is hungry, productive. There was nobody having an off day, which is something that I never allow. Like, I hate when players saying, like, oh, I just had an off day. Sure, lose a major when you have an off day. So there was nobody like that. The players did not allow themselves to have that. And I was crying before that Dallas finals. And then in here, once the guys went on stage in the middle of the first map, I was also crying because I knew we're going to have it. So for me, it's like, it's not more like in between the games what's important, but it's important how long you worked before that you're confident that your team has everything what it takes to shake it off after that second map and go into the third map with empty head, like with no thoughts, no regrets, nothing. It's just, were they prepared well enough before that they can actually do it during when it matters. And I felt like as a team, we were confident we can take it. So it's more like, yes, it was a reminder in between second and third map, but it's also a lot of work before that they were capable of bringing it.
I'm going to ask a bit of a tough question now. I'm pretty sure I know your answer, but we'll ask anyway. It is the conversation that happened afterwards, because obviously the trolls like to get involved. So let's feed them. Is NAVI winning the major a fluke?
It was our plan, so it is a fluke. No, to be honest, if I look at all the teams and knowing how much they train, how much they were preparing for major, like, I know, like, Vitality had 1 week of boot camp. Some of the teams were not even boot camping; they were playing online. We were boot camping from the beginning, almost from the beginning of the March. So I don't know if you can call it a fluke. I feel like it was worked. It was, we set the tone. We knew basically from October that we want to peak around major. We want to be we want to have maximum productivity around major. So I will not agree, because the amount of work that was put in from the staff, from the players themselves, from the org, like how much support we got and trust at the same time. Because imagine, like, we were doing very well at the end of the year, at the beginning of the year with the qualifiers for RMR with the Blast, and then getting hit around IM Katowice, then, everyone would be like, wait, that was supposed to peak, right? Like, what's going on? And we needed that, because that was the tournament that showed us where are the spaces that we can work on. And quite often when I'm quite often joining the guys on the server when they prac, just to listen to the comms, just to see the vibes. And, whenever they're pracking, I also like to learn, I also like to know what they're supposed to do in game. So I know that when they play, it's like, oh wait, that was something that they were not supposed to do right now, right? So I kind of, when I speak with the players, I also understand when they're making mistakes, basically. And I feel like that loss around Katowice was that space that showed us that we can definitely do more. And then, Bucharest, then the bootcamp. Can you call that something was a fluke when you have 90 days in 3 months and your team is 70 days in a suitcase? I don't think you can call it like that. So I think the amount of work everyone put in and the fight for this major we put in, I think it's fully deserved. And RMRs were like played very well by us. We fought well for everything. I think it was just pure passion and pure work for us. So not a fluke, absolutely not.